Just in case.
Okay.
Hello, welcome everyone to tonight's episode of Unlimited. So today is really special because we are going to welcome everyone to tonight's episode of Unlimited. I thought I shut down all these, but I didn't. Okay, there we go. Just checking the live stream. So yeah, my name is Zenka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet, where we help people experience contact, experience extraordinary things. We're super excited tonight to talk about the Peruvian alien mummies that were announced in the Mexican Congress just a few days ago. This story has spread around the world in every corner, and it's brought up a lot of interesting conversations. And, it's interesting to see how the press processes it and what they use for the headlines. And as it has evolved over the days, people have allowed it to sink in. What is the conclusion? And tonight is really special because usually on Unlimited, we interview a visionary. And tonight we're going to be including you guys a lot in this discussion. We want to know what you think. We want to know what you think the eggs are. We want to know why you think the mouth is tiny and there's no digestive system. We want you to voice your opinion about what this is. Is it real? Is it fake? What does this mean, right? I'm going to start by sharing a couple. Well, first of all, for all of you that are joining us on New Realities, Portal to Ascension, and any other things, I would invite you to hit like and subscribe. We have tons of viewers that never do that. So this is your chance to support this kind of content. I also want to invite you to get in the Zoom room, and it's free. Just go to lightnet.org/unlimited, and you're just going to get the link. So I invite you to do that so you can participate. I also want to explain that when you're in the Zoom, there is a button on the bottom that says reactions. And that's where you can raise your hand to say, hey, I have something to say. We're going to first hear from Arcturus Ra. Melissa Fike is also going to be joining us. And we have a bunch of LightNet guides and amazing people here tonight to also share what, Adam researched some of the ingredients in this. Everyone has some interesting ideas to share. And this is where our collective wisdom comes into light. So I want to share with you real quick, though, some of the pictures, that if you haven't seen, I think a lot of people that are on this broadcast have seen these pictures. But this is the picture of the skeleton. Now, this is kind of an X-ray in a computerized version of it. But these are the eggs that appear in the abdominal portion. It's really weird. It seems like there's a lot of ribs. I didn't count how many I have, but I think it's more than that, right? We also have the strangeness of the hands, of course. And they talked a lot about this, how, we normally associate opposing thumbs as something that is really elemental to our evolution, but actually these fingers are so long that they were talking about how they can just wrap around objects fully. So that's something that's interesting to talk about. And then they also talked about these strange breastplates, that are lit up. So the head is elongated, as a lot of you probably saw. And so, this is what they look like in their cases that are there right now. So I just want to share with you that, this is mirroring what's happening in the U.S. with the U.S. Congress. Like, this stuff is on the congressional floor. So nobody can not talk about it. This is daddy. If government is playing the daddy role and does he approve or not or whatever, like, this is happening, right? It's permeating into the stodgiest, the most controlling, the most, mainstream of mainstream places. The governmental, hearing rooms. And this is where the curiosity is really coming about. So I welcome Arcturus Ra. He's an incredible inventor and extraterrestrial here in Sedona that's doing such great work. He builds med beds. He has an incredible YouTube channel. And we're excited, Ra, to hear what you think about the Peruvian aliens.
So I have a couple of stories to that. So first off, I think it's genuine for the following reason. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. I know how to look at patterns, I look at images, and I know how to compare the images. So, I'm half German. So in Germany, it's like very kind of like offish against esoteric stuff, quantum, spiritual. If it's too far out, they dismiss it. And they're very strict in testing and genetics. So when Erich von Däniken held a meeting in Switzerland in German, I understand the language. He displayed and explained that 12 different institutions have checked the body of the big mummy, and they all have non-human origin. And when German institutions for cellular biology confirm that, you can bet your bottom dollar that this is the real deal. This is not a hoax. It's not some prep shit. And many people want to resist it, but they all come to the same conclusion with non-human DNA, and it's a completely different species. And for me, it's like when a German institute that is like, they would be against that, but they're not against their data. So, and when Melissa Tittle back then on Gaia showed the show Nazca Unearthed, I watched it. It must have been 3 or 4 years ago when they actually brought them to light. And the hustle with, I don't know if they worked with grave robbers and black markets. They had to pay a lot of money to preserve that, to get that object. Because some people was kind of, when people find things, they hold ransom, and they know what it's worth when they know what certain TV stations are looking for. This world has evolved, It's kind of like you find the homeless guy in the street on the corner of Brooklyn somewhere with a credit card machine. We evolved, okay? So the grave robbers are also evolved. They know if they find something that doesn't look like Earth, they know where to go and they know how to sell it. So that's another story why this is real. So they had more objects, and they said, we want to sell them to the highest bidder. So usually this disappears for rich folks, buy something and it disappears in their basement, and it will never see the light of day. God knows what a lot of rich collectors have in their basement that is not of Earth origin, that has yet to see the light of day. We have no idea what's going on. So there's a market behind the market behind the market. So this is evident. So when the show came up and I saw the elongated head, not that I need to be convinced, because when you see the picture of Nefertiti, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, they all had elongated heads. They were different species. Not saying that they were the same, but I think that different species were here on this planet. And when people are able to compare pattern, this is real. They had another case where Brian Foerster studied the Paracas, a race in the peninsula in Peru. Elongated heads. They found the bones, and then the status quo of the and it's just, I love it. I call them the quackademics. They insisted on this is because they bound the heads to make them look like the imaginary gods. But here's the thing: there's a difference. There are races to this day that bind the heads at birth for the kids in Africa to mimic the gods that come from the sky. But their original heads they found, some are called the Dunakile tribe, and these heads have more volume. That's how you can test, is it fake or is it just bound? Bound heads have the same volume as a human head because they're bound. So when you bound the head, the volume in the head remains the same. How did they test that? They took a human head, filled it with rice. They took a bound head, filled it with rice, and they took one of those Paracas that you see here, filled it with rice, and voila, the Paracas have way more volume, way bigger brain. Who knows? Probably different glands, a different species. And and I studied this since I was 11, so I would say like I'm an expert in finding patterns. When you hear the story of there's a race, they have different heads. There's a fairy tale, folklore, they have magic powers, they can move objects, they can instantly heal. I say, how about these are all extraterrestrial offspring and hybrids, still with the extraterrestrial functioning body and abilities, not magic, but science, and species that are at a higher stage of evolution than us. And then when Linda Moulton Howell talked about that there were genetic camps where these beings were created in the peninsula, and it matches with what Brian Forster says, but these two don't sit at the same table. I find a match. And then I'm like, again, there's a species that is not from this planet, that comes from elsewhere, lands on this planet, and we had probably intersection with many, many, many different species and many, many races. And so what I want to show you is what they're digging out in Mexico, and they call it Mexican paleo contact. This book is like, I think, $27 on Amazon. Get it if you don't have it. I mean, look at the spaceships that they're digging out with the occupants, with the description in the lid of the being, the pilot sitting in the thing. I mean, it's here's another one, and they always depict and tell a storyline. Let me see if I can bring this further so you can see this better, like this. So they show beings engraved in the rock. You can see here there's a craft over that dude. The being is under it. I mean, you have to be really, really in cognitive dissonance to not get that these are non-human species. The occupants are in the craft. You have to take the lid off in order to see the guy. So these are the ships that traverse the sky. And you heard the stories of the genetic influence. Here's another craft. And then the occupants. And what I found out is that these beings also mummified their dudes. But here comes the thing, and I have to go a little bit Sumerian text here. I'm going to give you a shitload of stuff, pardon my French. When Enki came in, sacrifice was invented. The killing, the disemboweling of mummies, and sealing the lid so they cannot return. In the ancient times, aliens had the capacity, when mummified, sitting in a liquid that would preserve them in stasis so the consciousness could return to the planet. So in ancient Egypt, when the fall of consciousness began, this already took place. They dismantled that. So you find mummies, heart removed, all the organs removed. They're not preserved properly, not like the ancients did that. And the lids on the sarcophagus super heavy, and some even had engravings where even Erich von Däniken said they made sure that this doesn't return. They put spiritual and magic markings on that because they didn't want that to return. So the return of the original extraterrestrial refugees and races that were here was actually prevented by doing that damage. And boom, there you have sacrifice. Then it goes further. A friend of mine who collects these rocks in Mexico did some line art of what is in those rocks. I mean, it blows your mind. You see the freaking reptilian genetic construct of they dabbled with genetics, just like the Nuburians. You can see it, yeah? You can see here, one is a mixed race coming out, and the other one, let me see if I can, because I don't really see the camera so well.
Yeah, we're seeing it. Open to the middle now. Yep, that one.
You see here, the dude is messing with genetics.
Huh.
There must be a planetary constellation with that. And then you see the hybrid giving birth to two species. It's tough. So... Yeah.
Wow.
See here?
Yeah, we can see it now. That's where
coming out, and the pure race. So there again is the dabbling with the reptilian species and so on. I mean, there's depictions of them fleeing, having to leave their planets, calamities are depicted. Something is coming towards their planet. And I've seen one that is not in this book. Here, remember the Freemasons. Who knows what their origin is, This was on a rock. This is extraterrestrial, and that is describing consciousness that can measure three-dimensional space. That's what that is for. So see that the Freemasons and the secret lodges stole that because they wanted to be like these superior beings. They wanted to be like these supreme beings. So the evidence that we have, stuff that is in the ground, and go to freaking Contact in the Desert. Go to, I don't know, Stairways to the Stars, Luxor in November, when these guys put the rocks up, hold them in your hands. I have a video that's going viral where I'm measuring the magnetics coming from those stones, the anomalies that you can measure, because I'm using, there you go. This stuff is real. I'll tell you also why that is real. There's the symbol. There's the symbol. There you go. This was turned into line art so you can see it.
Yeah, you're quick.
I love it. Perfect. So yes, we're like a hive mind here.
And these have been carbon dated, you guys, which makes the whole thing so interesting. And you're right. A lot of millionaires have collected these things.
Yeah, and these guys sell them. I mean, there's thousands of them. One thing is why they're real is an old friend of mine named Klaus Dohner, who is, you can say, the Austrian Erich von Däniken. He always has these interesting artifacts, and they measured it. Nassim Haramein, there's a documentation where he looks at those things and they measure it, and they got 6,000 up to 30,000 years back in time.
Yep.
Of the age of those thingies. And I think we will find more. Not only that, I'll give you another pattern. Madame Blavatsky, you know, so-called witch and blah, 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 but was a psychic and a seer, predicted that will we find evidence of other species that have long, long been here before we've been here, in the ground, buried, and we will find that when our consciousness is ready to accept that. So everything that's happening, you see this one, like the one, the shaman sitting there holding the baby. You scrolled over it, scroll a bit down. See? Oh, stop.
Oh, this one?
The shaman holding a baby with a crown. No, the gray one. It says spooky ancient sculpture.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, this one. Yeah.
See, I mean, you have to understand with the technological understanding of yourself that this is not a depiction of a human. This is a different species. So back to what they unearthing in Nazca is real. There's no question in my mind, you know.
Yeah. So you guys, by the way, this is Nazca. So this is, you know, when I was living in South America, everyone talked about this place in Peru and how these things are left, and they kind of laugh that anyone thinks it's anything but alien. I mean, they're just like, how does anyone not understand that this is not terrestrial?
Yeah, also you have to understand the consciousness. In order to paint such a construct of that size, when you on the ground floor there, you don't see. You can't imagine how to paint that because you don't have the dimensional sight to fabricate that.
Yeah.
Somebody had insight from above to depict something that would be seen from the sky.
Yeah.
So that means some intelligence was there to left something for whoever created that, knowing, and I joke, and I always get these computer specialists with it because they never get it. I say, what is the oldest storage medium on the planet? And they're like, oh, CD, laser this, it's a rock. That's very simple, yeah. Chisel it in stone, it can last 1,000,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you find that. They did a ground survey from Cuba, 2,000 feet beneath the sea. See if Zenka finds it. And they found a sun temple that is like the replica from the Tikal, from the Sun City, on the seafloor. And they did actually a survey just to see landmass and how the tectonic plates moved. And by accident, they found an entire city. They scanned it. It's online. Michael Cremo reported it under.
This is in Mexico?
This is in Cuba.
Oh, okay.
This is the coast of Cuba, and it was reported under extreme human antiquity. And the temple that there in the sunken city of Cuba. There, you see it?
Look at that.
Yeah, and so now check this out. They did
it's like a power generator to me.
Yeah. So now check it out. So they went back in time with a computer to say how remains of to be a 6,000-year-old city. It's actually bullshit. The true report, because they always jinx these reports. That temple is according to where the sea levels were, 176 million years old. Okay? So rethink human existence from the get-go. So that means that temple was built 176 million years ago before the sea levels rose. And they measured that with a computer. That's a fact.
Wow. So, Ra, we're getting a couple questions here about the name of that book. Can you hold it up again?
Okay, it's called Mexican Paleo Contact. You need to have this in your library.
Okay, Mexican Paleo Contact. That's great. Yeah. So I want to invite everyone who's watching on portal to ascension, new realities. I want to know right now what you guys think of the Peruvian Mexican announced aliens. I want to know what do you think about them? Why do you think that they have, why do you think they're small? Why do you think they don't have sex organs? What type of aliens do you think they are? Type in the chat what you think. Also, if you guys want to get in and share your opinions, we're going to be doing that shortly. You can go to lightnet.org/unlimited. That's going to get you into the Zoom room so that we can pull you up. Thank you, Ra. We're going to hopefully come back to you. But right now, I want to bring on Melissa, who is incredible. Melissa Fike is one of the premier Akashic Records experts in the world. And she's incredible. And she's very knowledgeable about everything. I've watched her lead incredible ceremonies with the Galactics. I've had her do some remote viewing and channeling with me that I'm just like mind blowing. You're so talented and so wise, Melissa. And thanks for letting us know about this. And we just wanted to hear your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I texted you as soon as I found out. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this. So I just want to clarify one or two things. Hi, everyone. I see a lot of people that I know here in the room, so thank you for joining us. First thing I want to say is that actually the two mummified bodies were not found in NASCAR and the NASCAR lines. Maria was. That's also looks similar to those. These were found someplace else in Peru. I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, great.
But,
Thanks.
yeah, only because I've just tried my best to figure everything out without watching, reading a bunch of text. Zenka, can you pull up one of the X-ray? Yeah, pull up a little bit to the X-ray. So one of the things that's really interesting is they think that the neck is retractable, which I find really fascinating. So it's kind of like you know how a turtle can pull its neck up and down. And you mentioned the ribs. If you see the picture of the ribs go around the body, and it's all one unit. It's just different how they are created because there's no it looks like they're not breathing the same way we breathe. That was one thing that was brought up. And the breastplate's really interesting. That's what the eggs, we can figure that one out a little bit if we were to look at any species that lays eggs. But that breastplate, that's made out of metal, if I'm correct. Is that correct, you guys?
Yeah, it's osmium, which Adam's going to talk a little bit about during his.
Okay, good. I'm glad because I thought Adam was going to talk a little bit about that. But so I'm curious, that must be something that they place in there for a reason. And these beings, it's 30% of the DNA is of unknown origin. And that is, they don't know. There's no species that they can attest that DNA is part of any species on the earth right now that they know of. Now, there's all sorts of possibilities. Extraterrestrials are one, interdimensionals are another. They could be, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. They could be elementals. They could have been elementals that have, used to walk the planet and maybe they ascended and then we don't see them in body anymore. Or maybe they were, became extinct. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Their bones are light. There's a lot of little things about what they found here. Now, this is the thing. There are a lot of skeptics who will say it's a fake, they're lying, whatever. Remember, this was in Congress in Mexico, so they were all sworn in. These were scientists. They've been studying this since 2017, 2018, when they were founded 2017. So there's been a lot of different DNA testing, X-rays, MRIs. The eggs were found in there, no external genitals. So all of these things are pointing toward either a new species, because that's possible, or extraterrestrial, of course, that's what I want to believe, or interdimensional, where they were, you know, possibly an elemental, which is still an extraterrestrial, just like the way I see the Sasquatch. They are also terrestrial to the Earth plane, and then interdimensional because they can work in and out of the Earth plane. Um, and I think that this is just showing us. Wait, I have a really funny story. So I was out to dinner last night. I was like, did you see what they found? And a woman who's visiting from Australia, visiting Sedona from Australia, turns to me and she goes, yeah, the US said, look, we have some like sketchy pictures of UAPs. And, and Mexico goes, no, we have two bodies. And they one-upped us. So
That's
they
hilarious.
are,
I was just saying
yeah, they're like, we can get better than that. So this
that's so
is
good.
the opening for, yeah, it's funny. This is the opening for disclosure, but guess what? There are going to be people who are not going to believe it. I told my son, who's a little bit more of a skeptic, never used to be, but all of a sudden he's smarter than everyone. And he said to me, I don't know if I believe this. And I said, oh, I said, but you're the person who, if they landed on the White House lawn and said, we are extraterrestrials from this location, you'd say it's a hoax. So it's not about making people believe it. And you don't have to believe this, but be open-minded for what's possible here. And what does this really mean to us as a species? Because that's what's interesting to me. Because what does this mean moving forward? Guess what? You're still going to have to, make food for your family. So life will go on, but we'll see the world differently. And it's going to change a lot of belief systems, which will definitely help the collective consciousness and help us all evolve our consciousness, because we limit ourselves to anything we only see, feel, hear, and know. That's the majority of the population. Now, there are people like Ra and Zanka and I and Adam. We see all sorts of things, but most people don't, and it's hard for them to believe it. So it's awesome. So many things are going to be shifting, and this is just the beginning. The thing is that when I was kind of in meditation and asking about this, like, what does this really mean? And what I received from the Hathors, they told me they were the Hathors, was that this is all about nothing can be hidden anymore. We're moving into an age of enlightenment where the hiding aspect is no longer viable. Now it's going to take a while. It's not like a door and all of a sudden it's swung wide open. It's creaking open very slowly. But the beauty of it is that we are working toward that. It's not just UFO disclosure. It's also interdimensional. It's also deceased loved ones. It's also what's really happening in the consciousness and what we're, understanding how we're creating consciously. So all of these things are all under this umbrella, in my humble opinion. And I'm super excited because I feel like this is just the beginning of not just disclosure, but also of the human consciousness expanding into the true oneness of all that we are, so that we can really come forward and love our fellow man instead of trying to one-up them. So what do you
Yeah,
think about that, Zanka? Any questions?
yeah, totally, totally. It's interesting to hear you talk a lot about the consciousness expanding, and really like we are getting into uncharted territory with most people, not you because you've been in this for a while, but it's just like you said, it's interesting to see how people react. And I think that all of this is like just slowly allowing all this disclosure pops to come out, so that when it happens, we're not in fear. Because we all know when we get in fear and we have contact, it doesn't go right, right? It doesn't go right. And the fear reaction is protection, security, safety, blow it up. You know what I mean? So that's why I think this is a really beautiful discussion. I encourage everybody who's watching to get in the Zoom, because nobody really knows. And so that's why we want this collective wisdom. We're going to listen to a bunch of people that are here gathered, and we really love putting all the pieces together from everyone. We also want to say that, one of the things we're doing, Coffee just worked on a page called lightnet.org/contact tips, because we know that if you don't have ET contact, it's hard to understand it, right? You got to experience this stuff. And pretty soon you'll be inventing things like Ra, you'll be channeling things like Melissa, writing books, right? It's opening yourself up to this information that comes from more evolved beings, right? And as we always say, if they wanted to blow us up, they could have done that a long time ago. We're going to have, so this is one of the webinars we recently put out, promoting our contact event with 250 people. We made contact with 100 people. You got 100 people together, some massive intention kind of collide, and you get good results for everybody. So we're doing it again with 250 people. In this webinar, it teaches you how to prepare your emotional, physical, and light body for contact. And then tomorrow night, we're going to be having a free Q&A session about this big experiment. Altair is going to be there from Japan on the call. This also teaches you, a lot of people want to know, like, what is my star lineage? This is the 2-hour Q&A that we had a couple weeks ago, where Altair talks about how to figure that out, how to tune into that. And so, we also have a feature we just did with Ra, talking about the brain waves that it takes to make contact. So thanks to Coffee for putting this together. If you want to know what other people experienced in the last Contact 100, this is over 25 or 30 different reactions and testimonials. People, if any, it's changed my life. It really has. I met great people. I didn't know what to experience, but it's life-changing. So again, Ra's going to be there. This is online over 2 weekends. And it's going to be amazing. And you can go and hit learn more at the bottom of this and learn more about it. But now I want to take it to Adam, who's our waking lucid dreaming professor here at LightNet, and has a lot of technical information about these aliens that he's been looking at.
I just wanted to share a thing about the breastplates. So it was an unknown mineral to me at the time. The breastplates are made of osmium, and we can all look this up if you're interested together. So osmium is the heaviest, most dense metal on Earth. It's also the rarest. And so it wasn't even discovered, properly identified, until 1803. There is no record of people accumulating any type of quantity until the middle of the last century.
Wow, it looks like bismuth. These are like little fractals.
Yes.
And we know, you guys, that bismuth is what they make crafts of, because we know that from the US government. Wow.
Right. So it's 1.6 times heavier than gold. And the technology to concentrate it in any amount is new. It's really new in the last 100 years. And so even though these beings are really small, there's probably about 2 ounces of it there. And right now that's going for $33,000 an ounce. So, and that's with our modern technology. So just the whole methodology of isolating osmium is some really serious chemistry and mining knowledge. And so the fact that that's there and it's older than a couple hundred years is a sheer giveaway that we're looking at something that's completely out of the norm, and very likely, very likely extraterrestrial origins, non-human origins.
And the fact that it's white.
Well, the whiteness then is interesting because as osmium's completely inert, it's totally safe in its regular metal form, but as it oxidizes, it becomes extremely toxic to organic material. And I think that's what I don't think it caused the death of these beings because it takes a really long time. Osmium's resistant to corrosion in a big way. But I think that's what we're seeing is that there's been some oxidation to the osmium, which it's possible. It's hard to tell because it's an MRI and it's white. So does that mean that it's showing up as white, or is that just the way that the software color coded?
I think it's an X-ray because I don't think that they could put them in an MRI. MRIs can't have met.
Yeah, I did read that it is an X-ray. So
It's an X-ray.
Yeah, and it could be just
Yeah, so it may not come up the correct color. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
and
Right.
that could be also computer simulation of the X-ray. Who knows? Like, but yeah.
Mhm.
I was fascinated that Ra was saying that this has been analyzed because a lot of the data, a lot of the news articles that you read, it's so funny. They do one press release, then it gets copied. It's like everything's the same. But they talk about the University of Mexico doing the DNA study, but Ra was saying that there was a lot of people studying these mummies. Like, was that before 2017 when they found these, or are you talking about these particular mummies were studied by whatever you said, 17 different countries? I don't remember.
Well, when they found it, it immediately was put on Gaia. And about Maria, it's like Melissa said, the other two were found in a different place, and they found more. They're not all on display. They found a lot more, but Maria is like the biggest, and that was tested worldwide from Mexico to America to Germany, Austria, Switzerland. Like different individual independent institutions tested that with, like she's right, like the 30% unknown human origin. I mean, and there's somewhat that's partially kind of comparable to us, but not quite us. So the conclusion of the 12 institutions is a different species. And what I want to say to the breastplates is what I'm feeling intuitively. What if these were elementals? And in order to stay manifest, they needed a density plate to keep them in this dimension. And without those plates, they couldn't be manifest. So that's probably a technology that was probably encased. It wouldn't corrode. It wouldn't affect them. It kept them actually dimensionally in place. That's just a hunch.
Go ahead and ask your question, Melissa.
Yeah, I was wondering if Maria had the same breastplates because I don't remember that but it's been a while since I've looked at anything with her.
Yeah, you got to watch Nazca on Earth. Like, watch the show from 2018, whenever.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so
yeah.
There's a few specs in there that will fill in some blanks. But this talk that Erich von Däniken gave was in German, and I don't think it was like major public. Not many people know, and I happened to catch it, and so I watched him talk in German about where they shipped it all to in Germany and in Austria and in Switzerland. And I'm like, if these companies say this is genuinely proven to be the real deal, like the anatomic structures, the bone alignment, like and that you can't fake that how the tissue is connected and everything, and the genetic testing. And when 12 institutions all agree, I rest my case. I mean, I'm not trying to go anywhere else with any
I agree.
skeptic, because these are the pros, they know. And when they say non-human origin and the eggs, that's not too far-fetched. We know that turtles lay eggs, lizards lay eggs, so all species on Earth reflect the species in the cosmos. If you study what the shamans tell you, what folklore tell you, then they're not from here.
Yeah.
I just say something. Jade said that osmium is excellent radiation shield. And, a lot of contactees Not all of them, but a lot of them have a higher amount of radiation. And if you've watched Skinwalker Ranch, they also talk about how there's higher radiation, so they're always testing for radiation. So that makes some sense if they are extraterrestrial, because maybe they need that radiation shield
Also,
Mhm.
yeah,
to
could also
travel
be.
interdimensionally or through planetary, I don't know. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, well,
Ooh.
Yeah.
we could correlate with when the abductees say some of them were taken aboard craft. Even the one Elena Danan said that she had to get a special dimensional placement device that she could be in the resonance of the craft, that was on a completely vibratory frequency, and she needed to wear that on her belt in order to be manifest in the craft. I mean, you got to go hyperdimensional here, you know.
Yeah, totally. So I want to keep moving it now. For those of you guys watching, oh, great, we have Susan here. I know she has some ideas. We're going to go around the room here. You guys can introduce yourself, talk about what your opinion is. Now, we can also get into the non-technical aspects about this. We can get into what you're channeling about it. We can get into why you think there's no digestive system, why you think they're so small. We want to hear from you guys. So we're going to go to Ashley next. And Ashley, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Hello, everyone.
Speak up.
My thoughts about these beings is that they're seventh dimensional. So if we discuss that there are 12 known dimensions of our atomic reality of atoms, these are seventh dimensional beings. When we don't need to take energy from outside of us, we don't need digestive tracts anymore.
Breatharianism.
And then some, right?
Ah,
And maybe the Osmium is giving them some energy source too, or stabilizing their energy patterns in a biological form. So I
Also-
do sense that we can somehow atomically show up all the way up to the ninth dimension. But we may not need to consume energy the same way we consume energy here to live and survive as biological beings.
right. Yeah, and many of you guys know that are psychics and healers and whatever, you can't be eating a big meal before you do that, because your entire energy of your body is in your stomach dealing with digestive issues. You know what I mean? So if you want to be psychic, like, don't eat right before you're going to do that, right? So it even makes sense that they go to lighter type of things.
It
That's
is
super
amazing.
fascinating.
It is amazing for fasting for 21 days.
Yeah.
And then on dry fasting, and then eating Satsuma orange 7 days in, and recognizing how much food really grounds us to 3, 4, and 5D.
Right.
So it helps us feel normal.
Yeah.
We're fasting for 40 days. Yes, you all.
We did juice thing for 40 days. Man, that was interesting. But yeah, and Viola here in town, she wants to do breatharianism for 7 days. And she's like, this has always been a curiosity. How the heck do people do that? Super fascinating. Indy 108 is here. She's a singer. She's very telepathic, very spiritual, super awesome. She just landed in Sedona. She's going to be at our Contact 250 event as well, holding down the field. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, Indy, about what's going on.
Thank you. I feel like Spirit is trying to show us our capabilities. I think Spirit is showing us past, present, and future all at once to show us that we're capable of activating our light bodies by becoming breatharians, and by activating our light bodies, and by realizing that all the minerals and nutrition that we're seeking are all around us. And it's about connecting in that collective consciousness together, and opening our single eye to see how much power we have. And so I think the extraterrestrials are coming to us in all forms, and the artifacts are coming to us just to really show us how capable we really are as we shift into our higher timeline, into new earth. So I feel it's really connected deeply with the spiritual.
Yeah, very cool.
And we just made a song, Starlight and I just made a song called Galactic Reunion, that reunites you with your celestial star family. It came out on 8/8. And now we're sitting with you guys right now. So think magic is very real.
It's very good too. I did the cover art for it and it's
Yes, you did.
really cool. Like I love their song so much. I've been playing it on repeat. It's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, we'll pull it up, you guys. And yeah, that's super great. Starlight, what's your sense about all this?
I feel that
Speak up a little bit because we want to make sure everyone can hear you.
I feel that they weren't dug up recently. I feel that they've been studying these things for a long time, and they've been documenting and hiring all the best psychics, all the best remote viewers to get as much information as possible to connect with these beings and to remember their technology and bring their technology back. I feel there's a lot of positivity when it comes to these types of things, as well as like negativity when it comes to people wanting to take advantage of it, and then also people wanting to do better with it, by bringing back that curiosity and like bringing back their technology, because majority of the people that were here before us, or the beings that were here before us, I feel like were very advanced, and even at the same time as us, I feel like they were very, very advanced, and a lot of the lost civilizations show that and express that, and they're only lost so that they can be found again. So I feel that these things are just now coming up because the truth can never be hidden, and they've been trying to hide the truth from us for so long that it literally it's coming out.
Like trying to hold a handful of water. It has to leak out.
Yeah. And as Ross said, these mummies are in the collection of millionaires all over the planet right now. And this one happened to get into the Mexican Congress, you know what I mean? Which is great. And I want to hear from you guys, do you think that these are future humans? Do you think we evolve in this way? And are they somehow time travelers? Like, yeah, what do you think? We want to know. We're about to get to you guys. We have Coffee who's going to share, and then we have Susan Schatzer, and then we're going to go to you guys. So if you want to jump into the Zoom room, it's lightnet.org/unlimited. And if you're watching this in a replay, most people are watching this stuff on a replay. Type in the chat what you think, right? So what you think is going to be out there, because we can't go through these press releases. I mean, one of the interesting things is Ryan Graves said, "Oh, I regretted going," and was kind of backtracking on all of this. So we want to know about that, you guys. Does this, if this isn't real, does it backtrack the whole disclosure movement and make people more skeptical? Why do he didn't give a lot of information about why he wasn't down with it. So again, these are the steps that we're taking. It's almost like the world is like, we're ready. And then it's like, wait a minute, we're not ready. And so the reality keeps like moving in a wave of we want this, but we don't want this. We want this, but we don't want this. And so that's why you see everything moving forward and taking a step back. It's like a wave, right? So anyway, Coffee, what is your thoughts on the Peruvian alien?
Yeah, so, oh my gosh. So, okay, I've heard a lot of people saying a lot of different opinions on, oh my God, what if they're like just voodoo dolls? What if they're like, from a culture or whatever, not alien? But then they did the DNA studies and like, we have all this evidence, right? That they are absolutely like some bit at least extraterrestrial. And I was thinking, really considering, yeah, this might be stuff that we've already have like information on, but the fact that it was put in front of the Mexican government and like said under oath, like, oh, here's all the evidence, here's all the facts, it's like coming to the surface now. And that is really cool. And we might have to go through a period where we uncover all of the conspiracy theories and confirm or deny the realness of all of this before we can really start getting to the new, exciting, juicy bits. So yeah, and then me and Adam were having a really fun conversation yesterday about just like what the different possibilities of it being was. And we kind of came up with, or he came up with the idea that they might be avatars for extraterrestrial beings that are built to inhabit Earth. So they look human and they walk human and they have kind of the same bone structure because they're meant to be on the planet. They're meant to do a mission. maybe that's why they don't have any, sex organs or anything like that, or yeah. So that was really cool. And then we also were thinking maybe the extraterrestrials did a study on us, and they saw that we really love little things, like we love babies, and babies have really big eyes. So maybe that's why they gave them really big eyes. They just overstate, So it was really great. It was just a funny conversation. And then I also really like the idea of, the fact that the Mexican government just put this out over our really crappy little pictures of some UAPs. So that would be awesome if this just turned into a pissing competition between our couples, because that would just be so cool. Like, imagine the amount of evidence that could just blossom forth after one trying to prove the other wrong, or right or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping for that. I would love that to happen. So yeah.
Beautiful share. We've got Pauline. Welcome, Pauline, Light member. Does anyone think that they're walking the earth now? I'm going to take Susan next. She is an incredible healer, channeler. Talk about quantum healing. Quantum healing is where all of a sudden you feel bad and then the next day you feel good and you're like, what? How? Wait, I've been working on this for years, right? So she does our galactic healing once a month, and we were just talking today, and I'm just so blown away by you, Susan, in every way. You're just a genius. And so I'm glad you're here tonight to share your insights on this. If you guys are next, so if you have something you want to share, you're going to go down to the reaction button on the bottom right, and you're going to raise your hand. And that I know to call on you from that. So yeah, okay. Welcome, Susan. You can unmute yourself real quick and let us know what you're thinking. What is all this?
So thank you so much for inviting me to speak tonight. Yeah, so energetically, like today is the day and now is the time. Our consciousness and humanity is like ready to receive this information. And with all the ideas everyone is sharing, it's sort of like D, when we used to take a multiple choice test, you'd have one of the answers that would say D, all the above. So that's what you're showing me, that it's D, all the above. So there's like pieces of everything that everyone's talking about that are true. And then there is this element of the conspiracy that the last card, that the cabal has to play, on humanity would be the false flag of an alien invasion. So what better way to default that, right? To just squash that is to bring up more alien information, more bodies, more results, more DNA, more pictures, talk about it, get it into the mainstream, because that's what needs to happen for people to sort of get desensitized from the fear and actually have an awareness of aliens, their technology, and like the contribution that they can have with us here on the planet. I mean, so long we've heard that those games that our kids were playing were too violent, and then they were going to turn out to be violent. Well, that's not actually true. That didn't happen. And how we're told salt's good for you, salt's bad for you, and coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you, and a glass of red wine is good for you, and a glass of red wine for you is bad for you. It's like that kind of a thing with the energy. It's like, what better way to bring forth information and to prepare the masses for the disclosure, that is absolutely positively taking place. And it's so much more about, why now? Like, why not a year ago? Why this year? With it, because not only what we're being shown now, but there's so much more that is, in a hidden state that's ready to come forward. And a lot of our frequencies are raising as a whole. And even the planet herself, the Schumann resonance, has elevated quite a bit throughout the years. And this is all coming right in, because the frequency you are is what you attract. Like attracts like. So those people who are aware of this, and this has shown up in their realities, because they're ready to receive it. They're in alignment with it, and it makes sense. So thank you. Yeah, thanks so much, Susan. You're reminding me that
one of the things we think, so there's those 3 eggs. One of the things we're starting to think is that when you move out of duality, you start to get a configuration that then repeats forever. So once you get past it's almost like once the feminine forgives the masculine and the masculine forgives the feminine, and there's peace between those units, then you bring in the 3rd piece of it. And then that becomes the community that kind of goes on forever, right? Then you're out of duality forever and everything can really blossom. I just want to remind people that, it's really important that we get together and that we have this, that we have these discussions. This Saturday, we're going to be getting together. We do our community call once a month, and it's where you guys can get into a Zoom room, and then we put you for half an hour with 2 other people. So it's groups of 3. And it's like you get to meet someone that you're cosmically connected to, because the way everyone's like gets off the call, like, wow, I can't believe I was in that room with those people because it was exactly what I needed. And there was all this synchronicity. And it's like, okay, yeah, when you become intentional. So if you want to join us for that, you're going to go to lightnet.org/connection. And that's where you're going to find that. And also I want to remind you, tomorrow, we're going to have this lightnet.org/QA. It's a question and answer where you're going to talk to Altair about our huge experiment to get 250 people calling in craft. And, Adam and I went out to the location that we're going to be working out of. Lone Tree from here measures the vortex, and he measured exactly a down vortex and an up vortex. So it's a very strong place. And we'd been there before, but we went there again last night and we did a figure 8 with our hands, and we started sending each other energy. It was like super looping in an 8. And sure enough, we saw a star and then 4 dots that were evenly spaced out. And I was like, how have I never seen that constellation? 4 is my favorite number, and these are perfectly spaced. Like, this is the weirdest constellation. Where is that? And why didn't I know about it? And then one by one, he goes, now there's 3. And I was like, oh my God, now there's 2. And so they went, choom, and then another one, and then another one. And he goes, we just had contact. So it's going to be really fun. Star. What? Oh, and then we looked up the star that was the bright one next to the other ones, and it was Arcturus. So yeah. So yeah, there's a lot more where that comes from. And like I said, we put together this thing, contact-tips, lightnet.org contact-tips, and it has just all these great videos about finding your star lineage, getting your body and ready. And tomorrow at 6:30, again, Altair is going to talk about getting your body ready for contact, getting your light body, releasing all the stuff so you can get the goosebumps and everything else. So I want to open it up, you guys, to anybody here on the Zoom that wants to share their opinion. And we've had a lot of cool stuff happening in the chat. And what do you guys think? We want to hear from you. And the way to do that is to go into reactions and put your hand up. Also want to pull Ra back in here. Ra, you gave a very, you gave a very scientific, Ra, can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You gave a pretty scientific, well, you are a scientist, so I'm not surprised. You gave a pretty scientific understanding of the historical precedents about the mummies and about the contact. Now, what do you think as a, starseed about the more philosophical components of this, about the way that the mouth is, the way that the ribs are, the way that the hands are, the way that the size is, like, where do you think, just this being could be from? Like, what is your sense about it?
I'm thinking it's a different time space where they're from. And the reason where we baffled this, and I imagine if you would stand in front of a Neanderthal, he would think you're an alien because you're a different evolution as in a neighboring species. You're not haired, you don't have bulgy eyes, you have bigger eyes, they have smaller eyes. They have a bigger cranium, yours is smaller, but they're more empathic. They don't have language. You have language. They would be would freak out because it's such a timeline and species and consciousness differentiation between you and that being. That's why we're sitting here, eggs, the mouth, that digestive tract. We also have to think other dimensional, that these species were equipped different. And like somebody, I forgot who mentioned it, this could have been an avatar body designed for consciousness to occupy, to be on Earth, because they needed something that's in close resonance to even be in that time-space continuum. And you have to study the ancient scripts, because we do so many modalities, the fasting, the this and that. And I realized reading the ancient scripts, they say, if you have the mind state to understand the resonance you have to tune your consciousness into, it doesn't matter if you breathe, eat, sleep, or whatever you do. If you know how to activate, and the Egyptians knew this, the Ka body, which is the plasma body, you can need nothing or anything you give meaning to, because you create that reality. So when I'm saying, when somebody is fasting and they're losing weight and they look like an X-ray, well, you're doing something wrong. But when somebody is a guru somewhere in, I don't know, in the Himalayas, and he's 300 years old and he has a little belly, well, then he has his Ka body in order. That means no loss of weight, no suffering. When people do this cleansing, but we don't know, the cayenne pepper and the lemon juice, where you do that 40 days, you're screwing the lining of your stomach. So there's extremes where sometimes we dabble with stuff. We don't know what we're doing. What we need to know is awareness and establish really what's my resonance. What am I in resonance with, and how can I handle the resonance and modulate that? And that's where the magic begins. And it begins very subtle, but it works once you train it. We're all conditioned, so we need to uncondition ourselves from what we have learned growing up, all of us,
Yeah. Altair recently shared a document with me that talks about, it was a leaked document where they call the aliens EBOs, exobiospheric organisms. And this guy worked in 2000 to mid 2010 as a molecular biologist for national security contractor. So he shared a lot of, what they found out when they studied these alien bodies about their DNA, how it's kind of a Lego system, ability to kind of plug and play different components. It was interesting because they also talk about the digestive system. They say the circular system is equivalent to ours. The digestive system, they say, is underdeveloped, and they believe that these guys were drinking like a high protein, high sugar liquid with copper in it, which is kind of strange, and that they use their skin to excrete a lot of stuff because just the way that their biology was working. It's really interesting. I'm going to pull up Jay and then Stone. Jay, welcome tonight. What is your, you have a genius mind that has so much knowledge. You're like my go-to encyclopedia on anything I could ever ask. So especially, so anyway, what do you think is going on with these mummies?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Well, I believe the mummies are real. I mean, well, obviously I haven't seen them myself, but there's so many artifacts come out of that region of the world. Eric von Daniken, obviously. Mr. Swain mentioned him, and definitely that sort of thing has been coming out for a long time. The little guy sitting in the spaceship in the rocket with the spacesuit on, and the aliens and the space helmets. All of that's been coming out of South American archaeology for years, and just has been ignored by the mainstream. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that they're finding more of it. This mummy, though, okay, it shares a common genetic code base with Earth beings, because you're distantly related to a lobster, right? I mean, very, very distantly, but you still share a similar DNA, ACTG, right? The basic code. So, theoretically, life that evolved on another planet with no contact with this planet. Okay, evolution and everything being random as it is. Now, why would it develop something like, wouldn't necessarily develop something like DNA to transfer its pattern down to generations? It develops something else. The fact that it's using DNA that seems to be engineered, you understand, like ACTG, like that implies a common origin. It really does, because a truly alien being like would be completely different. Like you shouldn't be able to analyze its DNA like using the same way as our DNA. It almost seems like it's something that's engineered from Earth components, is what I'm saying, or something similar to Earth components.
It's interesting, Jay, because this document that was leaked talks about this, and they say that evogeneticists can insert or remove a gene from a cell in a way that is far more targeted and efficient than our technology allows. No proteins have been identified in the EVO genome that interacts with TPR. Rather, we believe that these proteins are exclusively targeted by external genetic engineering tools, probably used at the zygote stage or the embryonic development.
Okay. Well, I would have to ask, how old is this leak?
2000 to 2010 is when he worked on that.
Okay. The thing is, since then we've developed this thing called CRISPR.
Right.
Exactly. And it turns out that genetic engineering is a lot easier than we thought it was.
Using
lot
viruses.
easier.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Not just viruses. They've experimentally cured sickle cell anemia this way. This is real. This is real world stuff. Like, they just take CRISPR, and they always thought that, like, if you altered a gene in someone who was an adult, that it wouldn't express. Like, well, your genes have already expressed. Why would that express if we? And it turns out that no, actually, like in the case of sickle cell, at least, it expresses immediately, and the bone marrow that gets produced in you from the time that they redo the sequence isn't producing sickle cells, and eventually it all replaces, and you're fine. Like, now that's experimental, but I mean, this is a big deal. Like this only came about like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, CRISPR can go in, like you say, and just edit one particular gene out. You know, one of the things that Altair is going to be sharing in Contact 250 is this research. But one of the things it says here, what's disturbing is that some genes correspond directly nucleotide by
known human genes.
I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. With known human genes or even some animal genes.
Right, like someone created a chimera on purpose. Okay,
right.
With some other genetically modified organism stuff. I'm saying that
to come to Earth to do missions.
Right. So
but using Earth components.
Yeah, exactly. So this is us experimenting on our stuff so we can go to space, maybe.
And Colonel Corso said the same thing in Beyond Roswell, and the original manuscript Beyond Roswell, which is even cooler. You can find that in the forum someplace. But you know, that the autopsy they did on the Roswell aliens, their digestive systems were too simple. They couldn't eat normal food. There's no way. They had to eat something like baby food or processed mash or something like that. That alien had been engineered to be in that flying saucer, okay, to be surrounded by that technology, that it couldn't exist apart from that. Like, if you just stuck it out in the wilderness, no, it would die in a few weeks. Like, that's, you know, it couldn't, you know. And look at the opposite, okay? Look at the opposite end of this. I have to be quiet, I'm in a library, okay? But a lot of you probably know that Bigfoot sightings, Sasquatch, are highly correlated to flying saucer sightings. A lot of times in the Northwest, you know, you'll see a flying saucer or whatever, and then within a few days or weeks, there'll be Bigfoot sightings. Now, if they need something tougher, that can exist in the woods and deal with animals and people and all this other stuff, instead of generating, kind of a flabby thing with a big brain that's not meant to move outside of a flying saucer and is being fed, baby food. They make this monster thing with striated muscles. They can rip trees out of the ground. They could do it the other way too. He's a drone that goes out into the environment, is what I'm saying, possibly.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
correlates back to Adam's theory that this is like a
A hierarchy.
Avatars, you know what I mean? My body as well might be, it might be a vehicle that my higher self or an ET is running, right? So it's like, maybe we're all avatars.
And
I want to hear from,
I was gonna say, I can confirm that thing about the Sasquatch too, because I took one up to the upstate.
They're closing down. I gotta shut down. I'll talk to you guys
Okay,
later.
thanks, Jay, for coming on. We appreciate you.
I went to upstate New York and they do a lot of ET work up there. They channel and they have these ships and all kinds of contact. People who are clairvoyant see beings walking around all the time. And sometimes they're even almost physically manifest. Like I'll be talking about this on my contact call, but they have a Sasquatch that like lives there and comes around all the time. And they can they smell him. He smells like a bear and he'll just like stand outside of like the cottage that they have, or they'll hear him rustling around at night. If they have tents, they have people stay out in tents and they hear walking, and it's almost like a soft walking because they're really in tune with nature, but it's kind of cool that's mentioned. So yeah,
I have smelled Sasquatch. I was like, no, Bigfoot, I'm not doing that whole thing. I'm not doing that. I was also like, I'm not doing the alien thing. This is like, and then I'm like falling deeper, and all of a sudden, I'm in this container with Garrett Duncan, and he's like calling in Sasquatch, and all of a sudden it smelled like wet dog in the whole thing. God. And I wasn't the only person who was smelling the wet dog. I was like, they are here. It was one of the most crazy, profound experiences I've ever had in my life because it was stench.
Yeah, I also had an experience like that, and I worked at a Waffle House in Alachua, Florida. And this lady was like, I can call Sasquatch, right? Or take me outside, show me. And we saw a UFO in the sky. And then she called Sasquatch and he just appeared and came right through and smelled foul. And I telepathically was like, should I be afraid of you? And he was like, no, not at all. We're friends.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's so cool, you guys. So yeah, this is the dimensional reality frequency model. If you can, we could be all on a dimensional holodeck. And if you put your frequency somewhere, you can start, right? We're going to bring all these things here to this 3D, but until then, it's like, oh my God. So I want to remind you guys that Saturday morning, we are going to be doing this connection call. Coffee was just mentioning it. She's going to be the one sharing what happened to her at the Zazar retreat with some crazy contact. So again, she's going to share her story for 15 minutes. Then we do a breakout group of 3, and you can do that lightnet.org/connection. So Stone, it's great to have you all the way from down under. What do you think about these mummy aliens?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Zinka. Oh, geez. Okay. Well, first of all, I go on to the scientific side. I've worked in biology and bloods and stuff, so I want to know the skin type. What is its makeup of the skin type? Why, how deep have the experiments gone, or is it just that they've x-rayed these creatures? I want to know way more. When it comes to the bone structure and the eggs, I want to know, are they eggs? And if they're eggs, what's the makeup within those eggs? I feel like we're at an age now where we don't need to be sitting in the dark. We need to ask the questions. We need to get some answers to these questions. When it comes down to the size of the mouth and stuff, now my contact has a small mouth, and from my understandings is they feed the organs what the organs need, and that is all. There's not a big need for crunching up food and having a big mouth, and the communication is telepathic. And when we have, like, you're talking about the hairy dog smell, one of the things that they've taught me is that's a frequency. That's a frequency that you recognize and you resonate with. It's not actually that they stink like that at all. It's like when they come in through the dimensions, they also come in with recognizable frequencies to what you have imprints of. So when I'm seeing these mummies come in, I'm looking at the bone structure, I'm breaking it down like I do. And there's so many areas I want to know about, like the tests, the skeletal tests now, and then I wrote about the breathing and the energy harvesting. When they come in, it's like, I think Renee was saying about the animals. I've got a stray cat at the moment, and I have to go through a whole process of breaking down what is a safe contact and what isn't, and whether or not he's going to take food from my hand and feel safe enough with me before we can communicate on a more of a spiritual level. They only come in when they need to come in with a message, and then they move on. So when I see these beings, we've got history of, we call it the tiki here in New Zealand, and Māori is a tiki. And when you look at the carvings, you'll see that the tiki has 3 fingers and 3 toes. Meanwhile, man has round eye, and the other one has a slanted eye. So we've got a history of bird woman, bird man, with the tiki flying on these different vimanas and being told that they're silver birds from the sky. Okay, came in from a silver bird from the sky. So all of these little things, and I'm seeing like the mummies that's on show right now. I think there's more to it. And like what Susan was saying, there's other agendas at play here. There's a lot of information that's coming out, and we can only work with what resonates with us at the time. So, be aware. If you're already in communication and contact with the beings, you'll know when the true ones are standing in front of you and the synthetic ones that have been designed to stand in front of you. So, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joan.
Amen. That's a good insight.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. You're so brilliant. We're so lucky to have you in the community. So you guys, I'm going to let Susan say any final words, and then also I'm going to bring Melissa up to share any final words. Again, you guys, I'm kind of surprised. We're going to close after Melissa and Susan have their final word, but to tell you the truth, I'm a little surprised that we didn't get more people stepping up to voice their opinion, because you guys, this is unknown. We have like 3 of the pieces of 12 that we need, right? So your opinion is valid. Nobody knows about what's going on, and we want to teach you guys to trust your inner knowing. You know what I mean? Just like India was doing, she was just like, close her eyes, and she's like, well, this is what I think. That is what we want you to learn to do, because that's what we've got until they're here and we're going yes, no questions, like conversation, invite them to the party, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So we want you guys to start trusting your inner knowing, because that's the way consciousness works. We all can tap into the field. And when we make connections with ETs, they can pass the information to us. So Susan, do you have any final words? Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I would love to. So one of the top things that we know is that everything's energy. Like the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the technology we're using, it's all energy. And what happens is we're energy right now with a body. So we're spirit energy, soul, source, whatever works for you, with a body. The body is dense. It feels hard. It's solid. But scientifically, it's 99.9% space. So right now, you're a being, a spirit, a soul with a body until you're not. And then you're just an energy of being a soul without a body. And you're vibrating at a different frequency that people who are in the denser frequency, which is 3rd dimension or here present right now, can't see, because our eyes, we've been taught that our spectrum is this big since we were children. And we were taught that this frequency is green, and this frequency is black, and this frequency is purple. So you were entrained to only see in this frequency. But babies dogs, cats, animals, their frequency expands past where humanity's is. And some people who have their third eye activated or have, their superpowers or have come online have access to other dimensions. And so that's where the elementals come in. That's where trees come in. That's where everything else comes in, including our extraterrestrial families. I work with everyone's galactic team and angelic team when I do instant healing. And it's one of those things where it's an automatic ask when I have a client in front of me and the team shows up and they're here. And that is how what you were talking about, Zenka, being in neutrality, like not having a point of view, not being in conclusion that this is right and that's wrong, or this is good and this is bad. That's what locks us in. And so this is part of breaking through. This ET brand new exposure that's taking place is helping to break through what's right and true and not true, that society says is or isn't. And so our frequencies are expanding, and so will our energy fields. And with that, entire things are going to become more visible to us that have been invisible for so long. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
excited.
so cool.
Thank you.
That's so cool. Yeah. And we want you guys to help pull the invisible into this world. It just is a tipping point. That's why we're very passionate about putting on this Contact 250 thing. You guys, the more that we link our fields, the more that we call it in, there's a tipping point and it's going to happen. We had a comment about what is their skin and things like that from Stone. And I did read something, by the way, that the reason they say that the mummies were preserved very well is it was covered with diatomaceous earth. I know a lot of you guys know this because it's used for like cleaning and fleas and whatever. Like it's actually like mini razors that, offered a level of protection on the mummies that allowed, not even a flea who's tiny, tiny, tiny can get past it because it's like razors basically. Melissa, what we give you the last word here. Thanks, and Ra, thanks for joining us as well. Melissa, do you have any final words about this curiosity that we've found ourselves within?
Yes, and I'm really about the energy and the consciousness and everything else. I think that is always the most important part. And this is also for the non-believers as well, so that we can bring more consciousness online. And I really feel that it's so often these people don't feel that these things are real, or that's not true, or that's woo-woo, or that's crazy. And it's okay that they think that way. All you have to do is just open up your own heart, your own mind to what's possible. I really think that this is just the beginning of everything that's coming online right now. And we're looking to the government to show up for us. But so many researchers in the UFO community have done a lot of work to bring information forward. There's a ton of information out there in podcasts, on Gaia TV, on YouTube channels. They talk a lot about disclosure and all that's happening. And we're just at the precipice of this. And the beautiful thing is, it is always about consciousness. And the more people who come online, the better we are. And I love the Contact 250 because I feel that once somebody experiences something like that, it's hard to deny it. And we're really at a place where so many, I see the collective consciousness, like little things are clicking in energetically. This is just the beginning. Now, these beings, to be honest, I think that this is just, I think that hopefully more will show up, but we don't want just beings. We want to have contact with these extraterrestrial energies or interdimensional energies. So definitely get online, get on LightNet, come to, Susan's website, Arcturious's, because we have a lot of things to help you raise your own consciousness and open up to the multidimensional energies and your own intuition. And like you said, Zanka, your own belief in yourself, because that's more important than anything else.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I love that you gave us that little, like, it's okay when everybody else is going to be resisting this, because, it's like you get all excited and then someone rains on the parade and you're just like, man. So thanks for reminding us that we're not totally clear yet of this like wave, but we can find each other. And so in speaking of websites and everything like that, I did want to share yours real quick, because what I think is so interesting about your work, Melissa, is that you teach people. So she teaches people how to read Akashic records for other people, right? So she puts together this massive, practical course. Not only are you getting all the information, you're with her, where she's guiding you through as you're stabilizing and figuring out how to do it. Because the practicing is what is important, right? Just as you mentioned, you can read all the books you want. If you don't start practicing reading someone's Akashic records, you're not going to know what questions you have. And then she's available on all these support calls to make sure that everyone is like 100%. And I love that you're duplicating your knowledge in the world and that you're empowering people instead of hoarding it, and that's what we believe at LightNet with our nonprofit. It's like, we teach you guys how to call in ships, and then we want you to teach a bunch of other people, because that's what it's all about. It's about this tipping point. Let's get to the party. Let's get to the galactic renaissance already. So thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us. Susan, you can see once a month on LightNet for her galactic healing and more, susanschatzer.com. She does incredible quantum healing. And Arcturus Ra also, rawkey.com, raw-key.com. He has incredible technology, scalar devices. We use them here at LightNet all the time, and he's such a genius. So Ashley had one final thought to add to the evening.
I'd love to share. Here's an opportunity for all of us to endeavor into a deeper level of discernment. Take just a moment to recognize a truth that you may have experienced in your inner experience that you're bringing out to the world. And ask yourself, can you unlearn that truth? And then sometimes when we learn falsities, things that aren't really true just yet or not evolved, can you unlearn that falsity? So what's really cool is when we practice or take a daily practice to unlearning what we've learned, it peels away the falsities in our environment and in our world. And when you can't unlearn a truth you've really learned. It's not possible. You keep it with you. And I invite us all to keep it with us in all the incarnations we experience.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you for holding your truth. Thank you for holding your wisdom. We'll hope to see you tomorrow night and also Saturday morning. We're also doing a spoon bending party on Saturday for the LightNet members. It's such a trip. But anyway, we hope to see you all in 7 days for Contact 250. We will be your tribe, your loving support, your safe way to make ET contact. These are ancient Vedic, Hopi, and Amazonian techniques that we're going to get organized for you. So you just have the toolkit, the galactic toolkit in the house. All these guys are going to be here. It's going to be really fun. So we love you guys so much. Thanks to the sponsors for this broadcast, to Portal to Ascension, to New Realities, and also to CAN TV. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow night for the Q&A. You can find that at contact or lightnet.org, contact-tips. All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye.